Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and there's no intro today because this is going to be a packed Bookish Week video. I don't usually have this much to talk about, but I do today. And first things first, I received a really sweet gift from one of my friends and subscribers, Marcia, and I just got this package out of the blue, and it was the sweetest thing ever. She sent me a Christmas gift, and it's got two parts to it. This is kind of a framed print that can, stand on a desk or be displayed. Actually could be displayed on a wall or a desk, but these are quotes from George Eliot. And this one on this side says, "What do we live for if it is not to make life less difficult for each other?" And then the one on the other side says, "And of course, men know best about everything, except what women know better." And I love both of them, and this was the sweetest gift to receive by surprise in the mail from Marcia. So thank you so much, my friend. It was so nice of you to do that. And the other part of the gift is this. This is a block, a wooden block. It's solid wood, and it has everything related to George Eliot on every side. That is the Mill on the Floss spine. This is Book 1, Miss Brooke from Middlemarch. That is the graphic that is on so many copies of this, the antique copy of Middlemarch, which I absolutely love. And I told Marcia, if I ever get a tattoo, it will probably be this. And then there's Silas Marner. There is George Eliot's signature, if you can see that. And there she is. It's a writer's block. Isn't that is so clever, and it's so sweet. So, Marcia, I can't thank you enough. It was such a great post-Christmas gift to receive in the mail. So what else do I have to talk to you about? I got a bunch of stuff. I think last week during my my top videos of the year, I told you that I wasn't going to do the worst of, but I do have two books that I was most disappointed in from 2023, and I thought I would briefly start off the video telling you about those and then move on to the good stuff. So the first one is a book I've already unhauled, and I gave the two books that I had to a good friend of mine who was really interested in them. But one of the most disappointing books that I finished, these are books I finished, not DNF'd. Not even going to talk about all the DNFs. But this one was A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, and this is the book that came after The Priory of the Orange Tree. And The Priory of the Orange Tree I really liked. I enjoyed reading it. It wasn't the best book I've ever read, but I did like it, and it was super long. This one was the same. A Day of Fallen Night is, I believe, the prequel. But this one was way more disappointing. It was all over the place. The pacing was completely off. It went up and down and straight and up and down and straight and back and forth. It did not work for me. It was so kind of rough and jumpy to keep track of all the characters and what they were doing. It was one coincidence after another that made no sense. There were moments of not really agreeing with what the characters were choosing to do based on what I've learned about them the whole time reading this novel. It was all over the place. And so that was really disappointing. I pre-ordered this brand new hardcover book, gorgeous design on the cover, as in The Priory of the Orange Tree, and I was so disappointed that it came out that way. So I very happily gave both books to a friend of mine and said, I hope you love them. Here you go. The other one that I was disappointed in, it's not really the fault of the book. I don't know. It's not the fault of the book, but so many people love this book. This is a Jane Austen novel, and this is Mansfield Park. This was the last Jane Austen novel I had to read, and I read it last year, and it ended up being my least favorite of her 6 novels. So it's pretty much Jane Austen. It's her standard style. The topics are the same. The themes are the same. Clearly, the characters in the story differ from the other 5 novels, but I just did not love this one. I had seen the movie years ago, and I actually enjoyed the movie. So I kind of had a basic remembrance of what the plot was, but not the details. But I really did not like this. I didn't like some of the characters that she wrote. There's typical Jane Austen humor. There was some themes in here that I don't think were developed enough. It touched on slavery. It touched on slavery in England. I don't know. I didn't like Fanny's character. I didn't like her personality. She didn't shine, and she didn't really show flaws in a flawed character. I really am no longer enamored with Austen. I have two favorites, Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, and Persuasion is very good. But the other three novels are in my bottom three. This is number 6. The one piece of writing that I absolutely love, besides the first 2 novels, is Lady Susan. It is fantastic, but it's also quite different than the rest of her novels, and I think that's probably why I like it. So this was a disappointment for me. It is not the book so many people, this is beloved for so many, but this is clearly not a book for me. So those are the 2. There's plenty of other books that were just okay, but I don't really need to go into that. During the year, there was some nonfiction books from the BookTube Prize judging that just were awful, but I've already ranted about those. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk to you about the 2 books I finished last week. Now, one of them is for my book group, In Real Life with the Critical Chicks. So, Critical Chicks, if anybody is watching and you don't want to know how I felt about this book, don't fast forward or don't watch this part of my video. But I am going to wrap up All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I'm giving you another chance to not watch this part of the video, because we're going to be talking about this on Friday the 12th. Okay, ready? I'm going to talk about it. This is S.A. Cosby's 3rd or 4th novel, his newest one. This was just recently published in 2023, so last year, brand new. And it's a crime mystery novel. It was okay. It was good. It was fine. Let's see. How can I talk about this? The premise is, this is the story of Titus Crown, who is the first black sheriff in the history of Charon County, Virginia. So right off the bat, that gave me Attica Locke vibes, because Attica Locke wrote Bluebird, which I loved. And this was like, what? So very similar main characters. So let's move on. This is the story of, you think it's going to be the story of a school shooting and the murder of a teacher, and the young man who is discovered to have shot and killed the teacher comes out of the school holding the gun that he used to murder the teacher, and the sheriff's department and many different police and authorities are there ready to bring him into custody if they possibly can. But very early in the book, he ends up being shot by the police and killed because they believe he's charging at them with this gun, and he's ranting and raving and with not understandable conversation. So he is shot and killed. Well, now he has given the sheriff's department clues as to why he shot this particular teacher in front of students. And this was a teacher who was beloved in the community, had been teaching for 25 years. And this young man alluded to the fact that, look at his phone, you'll see what the problem is, something to that effect. And so now we know that there was a trigger of this beloved teacher of 25 years, and that's where the mystery starts. So the sheriff's department's job is to figure out the motivation for killing this teacher. We soon find out what it is, and I honestly guessed pretty early. I guessed almost after that early scene where the shooter is shot and killed by the police. And I'm like, all right, that was kind of, I don't know, predictable. So the next thing is, well, now they have to investigate what's going on with this teacher and the teacher's background, and they do. This book was gross and depraved, and the background that they discover, and I'm going to try not to spoil anything, was really disgusting and horrific. And there were there were many times I thought, I can't read this book. I don't want to read this book. I don't want to finish this. I'm going to DNF it. But I didn't because it's a book group book and I really wanted to put effort into finishing it, which I did. But I finished the book and I felt like I need to go and wash my brain out because it was just that bad. Anybody who likes a cozy book and is a sensitive reader, do not go near this book. It's horrific. And at times I felt like the events in the book were being used as plot devices, which I really do not appreciate when it comes to something this violent and traumatic. And I always question an author who writes stuff like that. Like, what are you thinking? What is your motivation for using that as part of the plot? Sometimes I don't get it. The writing is fine. It didn't blow me away. There were characters in the book that were superfluous. It's like, why are you there? You don't add anything to the story. But it's a mystery thriller, police procedural. It keeps you turning the pages, even though so many times I just wanted to put it down. But I did finish it. I feel gross and I feel like I want to wash, take multiple showers. But we will be talking about this for book group on Friday the 12th. So any critical chicks who are still left standing, you can safely watch the rest of the video. The next one I finished was a reread. This is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. It's just as great as the many other times I've read it in my youth and my early adulthood. And coincidentally, my husband and I did a Hobbit movie marathon over New Year's. And the book is the source material, but the movies are quite different than the book. So if you've already watched the movies and you want to go back and read the book, that's my tip. The book is completely different. Yes, there are similarities, but the movies add so much to the stories that don't match up to the book. The book is charming and funny and filled with fantasy, filled with all kinds of fantastical characters. There is Middle Earth, there is the Ring of Power, there are wizards and wars and a journey and conflict and a dragon and a bunch of gold and mountains and rivers and landscapes. It's awesome. And I'm not gonna tell you the story if you haven't read it. I don't want to give anything away, but it's just a wonderful fantasy novel. Tolkien is the master, the original master. So any fantasy fans that I'm sure you've already read this, but this was the beginning of it all, and it just did not disappoint. It was fantastic, and I know several other booktubers have finished this at the end of 2023. And I'm glad I do too, because I am going to be embarking on a reread of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Heidi and I, and maybe another booktuber or two, will be doing that this year. And I think we're going to do a slow buddy read in February and read the trilogy. I don't know if we're going to do it in a few months time or through the year. It doesn't matter. We're going to do it. So we're going to embark on this book, The Fellowship of the Ring, in February. And I don't normally like movie covers, but this is not the movie. This is from the miniseries. I think it's on Amazon Prime. This is the miniseries tie-in covers. And I really like these because there's no faces, there's no photographs of faces, and I like that. And I just really like the tone that these covers set. So this is The Fellowship of the Ring, the first in the Lord of the Rings trilogy that I'm going to be reading in February. Now, I have a big pile of books that I wanted to show you. These are upcoming. And I don't know how I'm going to do this, but another thing is the Lord of the Rings trilogy is in my project of 24 and 24. And this is obviously the fiction portion. There are 12 fiction books that I'd like to read in 2024. And I put the trilogy as one book in this grouping. I'm not sure if I'm going to read all 12 of the fiction books. I also have 12 nonfiction, but I've got them kind of organized up here on my top shelves, and I'm going to try to make my way through them during the year. We'll see how many I finish. This trilogy I will finish for sure. Now, the next 5 books I have on my schedule, and I wanted to talk to you about them. This is a book I got for Christmas. This is Dead Girls by Selva Almada. This is translated by Annie McDermott. And this one I'm going to be reading with Sherry, who is a friend, a BookTube friend, and a subscriber and a commenter. And she had posted on Goodreads that she wanted to read this, and I said, hey, I'm getting that for Christmas. Do you want to do a buddy read? And she said, well, yeah, let's definitely do it. And I'm not going to give you all the plots of these. I think I talked about this one already when I did my book haul. So Sherry and I are going to buddy read this. I don't know when. I don't remember. The end of January or going into February. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Sherry, if you're watching, you know, we'll confirm it. We'll figure it out. It'll happen in the next 2 months. Let's see. I am going to be reading this book with Judy. Buddy reading this with Judy. This is The Virgin in the Garden by A.S. Byatt. And this is the first book in a series of 4, I think. And I don't know what the name of the series is, but the third book is Babel Tower, and that book has been on my shelf for a long time. And I think Judy at one point said, hey, I keep seeing Babel Tower on your bookshelf. Have you read it? And I said, no, I haven't read it yet. And she's like, well, do you want to read that book with me? That's the third in a series. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So A.S. Byatt's The Virgin in the Garden is the first one. This is a really old, used Penguin copy. I might try to replace this one. But we're going to be reading this, what's today? I'm filming on the 6th. I'm going to be starting to read the first portion. I think it's 148 pages or something like that. And we're going to talk about that in about another week. So I'm going to get into this one. I probably will already have gotten into this one by the time you're watching the video. This one, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, a reread for me. This is one of my favorite American classics of all time. And I had put this in my pile for December rereads, but I didn't get to it. But one of my in real life friends from the Critical Chicks said, hey, I would love to read that with you. Do you want to buddy read it? And I said, absolutely. So there's going to be 4 of us from my book group who are going to be reading The Grapes of Wrath. We're going to start in the last half of February, I think. Again, I didn't prepare, so I don't remember if it's January or February, but it's going to be read. I don't remember. But we're going to read The Grapes of Wrath. Oh, now, 2 more. This one. This is the Iliad from Emily Wilson, and I'm going to be buddy reading this with George, and we talked about reading the Odyssey as well, but obviously we want to read the Iliad first because it's first in chronological order. And I'm really excited to read the Emily Wilson translation. So we're going to be embarking on a buddy read of this. Again, all of these buddy reads are beginning or continuing in January and February. So I'm all mixed up. I got to put them on a schedule. I got to know when I'm reading or what I'm reading when. But George and I are going to be reading the Iliad. I'm not sure if he's got the Wilson translation, but that's the one I'm going to be reading. I also have the Caroline Alexander translation, and I'm not sure if anybody has read that one. Let me know if you have and what you think about that. One more. I am going to be rereading Middlemarch by George Eliot. Why not? I believe there's going to be a Middlemarch project with Anne Novella and possibly several other people in a group read. I believe, but we're going to be rereading Middlemarch, I believe, starting in February through March. Again, I have to confirm all my bookish schedule. But I can't wait to dig back into Middlemarch. This is the original copy that I read, and I do have quite a few highlights and arrows and quotes. So I might pick this one up again, or I have, 8 copies of Middlemarch in different formats. I also have one of the older Penguin classics with the yellow lined cover. So I might decide to pick up one of the other copies and read that one. But so that's everything that's going on, and everything that I've read and the 2 books I was disappointed about, and showing you my really cool Christmas gifts. So thanks for watching. If you've watched this far, this is a longer one that I normally post. But let me know in the comments below what you think of any of these books, or if you've read the Iliad and the Caroline Alexander translation, let me know that too. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.